New report being released by School Choice Wisconsin today. It helps prove that choice schools are the best educational bang for our taxpayer buck, both in terms of the overall expense of educating a child in Wisconsin and also getting the best result in higher test scores. School Choice Wisconsin's in the midst of selecting a new leader, so they've asked Scott Manley to help out as a spokesperson on this one. Manley's also the executive director of government relations at Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, so that's why you're going to be familiar with him and with his voice already. Good morning, Scott Manley. How are you?
Good morning, Jay. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. It's good to have you on the show. So what is the basic finding here? That even on rankings done by the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, choice schools are generating higher report card scores, and even though they're receiving a fraction of K-12 taxpayer money, is that right?
Yeah. I mean, basically the bottom line of this report is we spend less money to educate each school choice kid, and they get better academic results. And so when we're looking for how do we best prioritize our education dollars, the finite resources that we spend on educating our future workforce, the best investment we can make is in choice schools.
Well, so if school choice is Wisconsin's most cost-effective K-12 investment, this isn't just going to encourage more parents to look at school choice enrollments. This should encourage more civic leaders to look at more choice enrollments, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the good news is that we have a Republican legislature that in the budget, not this past one that was just signed last month, but the one just prior to that, made a major investment in public choice or school choice education, and as well as public education as well. But this data, Jay, just bears out that was the right prioritization of our education dollars. I mean, when you look at it, we essentially have three choice programs in Wisconsin. We've got the Milwaukee program that's the first in the nation. It's been around for decades. Then we've got the Racine choice program, and then we've got the statewide choice program. And whether you're talking about the Milwaukee program, the Racine program, or the statewide program, every single one of them, this study shows, and this is using Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction's data, the choice schools perform better academically with far less funding than their public school counterparts. And you can actually measure that. You can measure the productivity, and when you sort of levelize what the data shows based on how much we invest, we get 76% better outcomes for every dollar that we spend on the choice program in Milwaukee. We get 41% better outcomes for every dollar we spend on the choice program in Racine. And we get 33% better outcomes for every dollar we spend on the choice program statewide outside of Milwaukee and Racine. I mean, so those numbers are significant. That's a big deal. When you think about how much money we spend on education, if we could get a 33% better return on our dollar on a statewide basis for investing in the choice program, why in the world wouldn't we be doing it?
Well, exactly. I looked through the study, and it shows MPS, for example, is spending over $16,000 per student in order to get a significantly worse DPI rating than Milwaukee's choice schools. Ditto for Racine. In that district, about $15,000 per student in Racine Public Schools is getting a significantly worse DPI rating than the rating for the choice schools there. They're spending about $11,000 per student. And I would point out that the funding figure that's used here for MPS is low, because MPS also gets federal funding to the tune of nearly $2,000 per student that the choice schools don't get. So just to work the apples to apples comparison, they didn't include the federal funding here, but we're really talking about an MPS product where we're spending $18,000 per student for a significantly worse product versus spending $11,000 or $12,000 in the better educational outcome in the choice schools.
Yeah, and you would think that, well, gosh, this is a no-brainer. Why aren't we doubling down on choice schools? But we've got political leaders in our state who are just adamantly opposed to it. Governor Evers first of all, he said it's morally wrong. School choice is morally wrong. he's consistently tried to freeze enrollment and strangle the program to a slow death with red tape. And then our superintendent of public instruction, the head of DPI, Jill Underley, wants to just eliminate school choice. And it's just confounding. I mean, you think about it. MPS, now this is, again, after Jill Underley inflated the numbers and changed the scores for the school report cards. Even after that, 76% of kids in the Milwaukee Public School District are below proficiency for reading, and 80% are below proficiency for math. This is high school.
Awful.
So you've got a system where better than 3 out of 4 kids can't read or do math proficiently, and their report card says that they're meeting expectations, that the district-wide they're meeting expectations. I mean, I don't know in any other circumstance you could have a better than 3/4 failure rate and say, yeah, that's good. That's right where we want to be.
Yeah, let's keep doing that. We're talking with Scott Manley on behalf of School Choice Wisconsin. Let's be honest, though. MPS and Racine school districts were the first targets for the state school choice program because they weren't considered very good schools. They needed there were districts that the parents there needed help and different choices. Now that we have statewide school choice, do the choice schools really produce a better product statewide?
They do, and they do, and the achievement's 33% better for every dollar we spend, and that comes with a giant asterisk because, Jay, that's actually understated because we're not making an apples to apples comparison with the statewide program. And in order to be eligible for the statewide program, you have to be at 220% of the federal poverty level or below. And the vast majority of kids in our public schools aren't at that poverty level. So you're essentially comparing the academic achievement of children of poverty in the statewide program to the entire rest of the state in districts like Arrowhead, probably one of the best and wealthiest school districts in the state. Mm-hmm. And I would argue to you that socioeconomically, those are not apples to apples comparisons. And yet, on average, the choice schools perform at a 33% better rate on a dollar for dollar.
That also speaks to the long-time lie or the long-time claim that choice schools get to pick and choose the students they accept. Well, you're rejecting the lower achieving kids, you're rejecting the special needs kids, and that can skew these comparisons. Choice programs serve mostly non-white and economically disadvantaged children, and for a lot of choice schools, that's actually their mission. Part of their mission statement is we're going to help the lower income and the more challenged students achieve. Correct? So
that's absolutely correct. You look at the statewide choice program, and 31% of the kids in the statewide choice program are Black or African American. Again, this is DPI data. For the rest of the state in the public schools, that's 8.8%. So you've got your average statewide choice school has more than triple the rate of Black or African American enrollment than their public school counterparts, and then the exact opposite is true for white kids in the choice program. Only 1 out of 3 kids is white in the statewide program, and in their public school counterparts, 2 out of 3 kids are white. So, the statewide choice program, when you look at it demographically, it's primarily children, students of color. Whites are actually the minority in the program, and every single one of them is economically disadvantaged. Yeah. And yet they're still performing better statewide than their mostly white, mostly middle class or upper middle class counterparts. So it's a real success story.
All you have to do is visit some of these choice schools, and you will see why it's a success story. But School Choice Wisconsin is releasing this report today. You're giving me the early exclusive on it. And I noticed that it just happens to come as the Institute for Reforming Government says the state DPI is about to change the rules on report cards and student achievement again. They say starting today, the Department of Public Instruction's gathering in Madison. They're going to overhaul their star rating system that they use to rate schools and districts. This is going to be the fourth major change in 5 years to the system. And of course, what they're doing is they're trying to paper over past screw-ups and the dumbing down of these ratings, the lowering of these ratings that we use to rate our children, to the point where the rating system starts to become useless. So I want you to put on your WMC hat here now, as someone who watches out for Wisconsin employers and the business community at Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. This really has to concern you, that Wisconsin is, especially in the era of the so-called education governor, Wisconsin has started to crank out an inferior educational group of future employees, and just sort of an inferior educational project, when for decades we were tops among the states.
Yeah, we are a national leader in education, and look, we need a well-educated workforce. Every type of job we have in every sector of our economy needs people who know how to read and write, and a lot of the jobs, particularly in our manufacturing and construction sectors, you got to be able to do at least grade school math. And today, when you look at the two largest districts we have in the state, which are Madison and Milwaukee, it's a travesty. The Black and African American student population in the Milwaukee and Madison districts are in single digits for reading and math proficiency for high school kids. Single digits. So 9 out of 10 or worse can't do either math at grade level or can't read at grade level in high school. And even after DPI fudged the numbers and changed the cut scores, the Milwaukee district is still at 13% proficiency for Black students for reading and 9% proficiency for math. And again, their report card for the district said that's meeting expectations. I mean, Tony Evers says that school choice is morally wrong. I would argue to you that what's morally wrong is creating a system where you have a huge population of students of color who 9 out of 10 of them aren't learning to read, 9 out of 10 of them aren't learning to do math, and you say that meets our expectations. Yeah. I mean, we got to give parents, because there are parents who care about their kids and their education. We got to give parents who care about their kids a choice.
That's a good place. It's a good place to call it here.
Program does.
Yeah. Well, and I've got to cut you off because we're running short on time here. But Scott Manley's day job, of course, is with the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce Group. He's pinch hitting for School Choice Wisconsin today as they release these very encouraging findings that prove School Choice is Wisconsin's most cost-effective K-12 investment here. Gets the best results. Thanks for being on this morning. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
It is on WISN.